Next we have Dr. Gregorio Mora Torres. Late arrival, where is he?
No, he went for an errand.
He went for an errand.
An errand?
An errand.
He
Is
went to
Macario-
get some
Macario-
water because he
Is
forgot.
Macario Ortiz here?
There he is.
Announcing Dr. Mora Torres. Meeting Dr. Mora Torres.
He went to get water, so everybody.
No, he's right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, the idea behind all of this has merit. We've got the 501c3 status, tax exempt status. So those are things. My son, who's a lawyer, just came back from serving as a deputy White House counsel on ethics in Washington, D.C. He and a group of lawyers and professionals back there have been trying to get something like a tax exempt organization started. It's been 3 years and they still don't have it because somebody says, well, you do this and somebody does that. What we have done here, thanks to Ramon Martinez, is he took that ball and ran with it. And, you know, he may be abrasive to some people sometimes, but not to everybody all the time. Mora Torres, your presence is required, please, to give us some idea about how you're going to disseminate research, books, articles, magazines, newsprint articles, and how you're going to promote all of this stuff. Would you please step forward and be acknowledged?
Okay.
You're a professor over at San Jose State, and you teach what, Mexican American Studies?
We teach everything.
Okay.
Live.
I have some problems with my calculus.
That one we don't. I used to do that.
Okay, so you're on for this part of your. You got 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't need to take all 15 if you don't want
I
to.
can take 5 minutes only.
He's a professor. Take a whole hour.
You know, when I started my interest in Chicano studies, Mexican American studies, we only had about maybe 10, 20 books on Mexicanos in the United States. The vast majority were written in English. And the reason why was because we didn't have historians, professionally trained historians. So ever since the 1970s, we've been turning out an incredible number of Chicano historians. So that they have basically covered every single state, from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, California. And it's actually people who are working in the histories of Mexicanos in Washington State, Oregon State. The Midwest has an incredible number of historians that have done history of Michigan, Mexicanos in Michigan. There's actually a lot of work in Chicago and so on. And so today, you know, we have a significant number of historians. And so the question is, how do we get all this information to people? Okay? That's the problem. We don't really have a lot of these people are university trained people. They teach in universities, but how do we get that to people like you and everybody else? Okay? And so that's the purpose of organizations like the Historical Societies in Clark County. Our idea is to basically go out there and find those books and you know, disseminate them to the community. And we want to do this through the process of basically setting up a computer network, or at least getting people publish pamphlets, publish a list of books that have come out recently, magazines, journal articles that have come out, because you'd be surprised the incredible amount of material that's coming out every year. You know, I read a lot of this stuff every year, and I just don't have time enough to read everything that comes out, especially in the Southwest, or you know, so all kinds of things. And so one of the jobs that I see is basically coming out with pamphlets so that people can read, you know, in public. Tell them about the major historical archives. I mean, San Jose State has this Chicano Resource Center that has, you know, at least 10,000 books and documents. You know, we have stuff that earlier archivists have done, you know, where we have interviews with Jose Carrasco, Martina Garcia, Sofia Mendoza, and they're all there. So we just need to find a way to publicize all that information, get people to go out into the Chicano Resource Center. And, you know, if you go to Berkeley, you go to the Bancroft Library, has incredible amounts of material. Fernando Zazueta likes early colonial Mexico, early colonial Spain. There's at least 80 memorias of early Californians that are there. And, some of these documents are only, 5, 10 pages long, but there's some, that are 100 pages, 200 pages. And that history has never been told from the Chicano perspective. We have a lot of Anglo historians that have looked at the material, but they have given it their own interpretation. So my job is basically to come out and give you access to this information, and hopefully you can do that with pamphlets and whatever material that we have eventually.
Thank you, Gregorio.
Okay.
If any of you want to work in that field, we can help you. We can use you. We need you to give us guidance how to get it. We already have a list, a whole page of resources. Particularly, for example, there's a book by Steve Pitti, P-I-T-T-I, called The Devil in Silicon Valley. That is a pretty accurate depiction of what has evolved here in Silicon Valley with our particular participation in it. But there's a whole list of those. If you want those, just send an email to us. What do you need? Anyway, just send an email to us saying, may I have that list of resources, and we'll be happy to shoot that over to you. Now, the other one is Gil Villagrán. He volunteered to serve on our board. He said, yeah, you need some help. This looks like a good idea. I'll be happy to help. He's got some background in social history. He has a very lengthy biographical sketch that he wrote, but I've asked him to reduce it to a page. Come on over here, Gil, and tell us how you're going to conduct educational training.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's begin by showing this poster. ¿Quién es? Ernesto Galasta, born in Nayarit, I believe, came through Mexico overland, eventually grew up in Sacramento. As he was growing up, he wrote a book called Barrio Boy. You should all read that book. It's fantastic. About a little boy growing up in Sacramento back when being Mexican was something a little bit shameful for the majority of people. And that quote, this quote, vale más la revolución que se fue, perdón, vale más la revolución que viene que la que se fue. Translated, the revolution coming is more important than the last that went. Now, as an avid amateur historian, I love history. That's what I do for fun. I read history of anyone, everywhere in the world. But the truth is, who are, as Chicanos, who are our major heroes from the revolution? Pancho Villa and Zapata. And they are my heroes too. But think about that. That's the revolution that happened. Some people call it a frozen revolution, but it's actually a film, The Frozen Revolution. But the revolution that's coming is more important. The historical figures like that are critically. I mean, the images, the photographs are fantastic. We have posters everywhere. But the revolutions of today are right here. Ahí está. Ahí está ella. Allí, George. We're all revolutionaries. Not with violence, but with ideas. So that's the idea behind conducting educational training for individuals, children, youth, families, and ourselves, and our neighbors. We know the rich history of Latinos, but what about the neighbor next door? That has a rich history also. As Ramon was saying, there are all these historical societies in Santa Clara County. There's not one for ourselves. So we need to do that. We need to create that historical society right here, right now. You're founding members. Think about it like that. Now, another thing about history is that a famous historian, well, a young man from Spain was very bright. His father, in the early pre-1900s, said, you know what, my son is so good. Can somebody give me some water? 6%. Anyone.
There's a water there.
Thank you. A la Marco Rubio. So, he sent his son to Harvard in 1900, I forget the date. He sends his son to Harvard, and his son is such a good student. After he graduated, Harvard says, you can't leave, you have to stay here and teach. So he taught classes. And eventually, he came up with this remarkable statement that I'm always quoting, and I apologize if you've read this before for me, but those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it. How more true could that be? We forgot the history of U.S. interventions. We intervened in Iraq. We broke Iraq. And the people, the Mujahideen that had trained in Iraq, no, in Afghanistan, I'm sorry, they came back. What did they do on 9/11? Right? They rode their airplanes into the World Trade Center. 9/11, when that happened that morning, I'm getting ready to go to work, and I said, 9/11? Bombing the World Trade Center? My brother-in-law used to work at the World Trade Center. And then I thought, wait a minute, what else happened in September 11, 1979? September 11, in Santiago, Chile. We are trained of the Chilean Air Force bombed their presidential palace. So we did to Chile, not directly but indirectly, what they did to us. History is so fascinating, it bounces back and forth, it's like echoes. So, we need to train ourselves and each other and our children. So in this beautiful book, Stephen Pinty from Yale University, I just saw this at the bookstore at San Jose State. I was teaching their social work, and I said, I wonder what Mexican Americans studies, what books they're using. So I went to that part of the bookstore, and I always do that. And I found this book, and my God, Devil in Silicon Valley. Look at that image. So it's the devil, and I don't know who it is. They're playing cards. I don't know. Pacadilla. But anyway, buy this book. But let me just read and finish with this. Mostly socialized and associated with Japanese students, and not so much Anglo students while growing up in the town of Campbell. Ethnic Mexican also found some new friends among white San Joseans, particularly those involved in Depression-era labor organizations. In the 1930s, as working people came to question the structure of American capitalism, she was working with other party members, that means the Communist Party, to develop the Cannery and Agricultural Workers Industrial Union in San Jose in 1931. How come we didn't know that?
What was her name again?
It's Dorothy Hia. Buy the book and you'll have everything. Okay. So let me finish. By reaching out to Mexican workers. Okay, so the history is right here. And I came as an immigrant child with my family when I was 5 years old. We lived in my uncle's garage on 7th Street. And my father went to night school at let's go with Sofia Mendoza.
San Jose High School.
The middle school.
Oh, the
Roosevelt. My father used to go to Roosevelt Night School to learn English. And I have 4 sisters, and they were all ganging up on one boy, and I was the oldest kid. In a desk, and I think maybe I was drawing with crayons. I don't know what I was doing. I was 6, 7, 8 years old. But that's how my father learned English, right there. And so the history is right here. Drive over to, if it's not Roosevelt Park, it's a beautiful park, by the way, in the community center. But the history is being made right here.
And we need to join and make it happen. So, the plan is that somehow we're going to use the internet, like we can send and meeting. We're going to offer to do workshops in schools. They have other students, so why not some of us go to speak to these kids on Cinco de Mayo and inform them that Cinco de Mayo is not just for parade. Or one time it's the Mayo parade in San Jose, well, they had to get beer to pay for the parade. And the more beer they sold, the more money they needed to pay for the police afterwards, because I mean, what happened at the soccer stadium last week? People were throwing bottles at each other. By the way, I wrote a letter to the editor and worked the news, so they actually printed it, but I said,
All of the school there, I think was school, on to touch on it. I took a little cortito that I had from when I was a boy, and a long hole, and put it in Santa Cruz. Eventually they walked around the gathering there to show that. But I said to the teachers and the principal, this is a wonderful thing for them, into their memory, into their being, what it's like to be willing to participate in your community, willing to stand up for who you are. No bathrooms out in, for the workers out in the fields, no shade, no water, no potable water, and no proper housing. And so all of that is something that we need to document. He was working out of here, the CEO here in San Jose. He's going to talk to someday, talk to the people of CSO, CSO, to see if we can access some of their information to put it into our archives, not to take it away from them, but merely to copy it so that we can make it available to more people. So if you have any interest in any of this that we're talking about, we welcome you to it. Alguien me voló mi documento, creo que fue either Gil or somebody else, but let me see here.
While he's finding his documento, I want to remind you about the blue sheet. It is very important that you tell us everything you can about things you may be interested in and ideas that you're trying to get in a word and you know it's difficult. So write them down. We're not going to lose it. Your paperwork has our email address, our address. So we need to stay in communication with you. So fill out the top. Lastly, the third treasure that we have, he mentioned already, is Al Castellanos used to take a little video camera to all the Cinco de Mayos and 16th of September's and film them. And I remember, anyway, we're working on a video. The movie is coming, okay, of trying to look at those about 14 years of fiestas, then it turned into an art fiesta, etc. It's coming.
I want to make that announcement today. I want to make that announcement today here.
What announcement do you want to make? Real quick.
First of all, I want to thank the Excentrico. When I came to San Jose in 58, 59, I worked with the Excentrico. I've never had a life. I picked up the Excentrico, and that told me what was going on in San Jose. But what I want to announce here is I have about several thousand feet of video that I did of the fiestas for 20 years with the American Jack Forum. And I'm making a documentary about the fiestas that we did in those years. The documentary is only going to be about maybe an hour and 120 minutes long, so it's not, we can't put everything. But I want to remind you that when we had those fiestas downtown, thousands of people used to come for one day, anywhere between 100,000 to 300,000 people would come to San Jose for one Sunday. It was incredible. No other group no other organization in San Jose ever drew that many people to the downtown area. The American Jack Forum at that time was the strongest Mexican American club in San Jose at that time. And there was.
Al, will your tape or what you're producing, will that be available to the society for our archives to just copy?
Well, I'm going to show the video soon. Keep your eye open. There'll be some announcements made, and we want you guys to come over and see it. I'm going to have a fundraiser for the for the Mexican American Plaza. I'm going to charge, so the receipts are going to go to the Mexican American Plaza.
You're talking about the Mexican Heritage Plaza?
Mexican Heritage Plaza, yes. The funds are going to go to them. So keep your eyes open. I hope you tell your friends about it, and we will make an announcement soon when it's going to show. I also want to say that Mayor Martinez was very active in helping me make this video. He was my historian to find out people that I didn't know in the film. He helped me find their names.
Thank you. We want to proceed with the hearing, but we'll look for this thing. Changed to the Department of Justice. Things change because the Department of Justice is a paramilitary organization. They've got prisons, they've got helicopters and planes and guns. They've got thousands of Border Patrol agents. So when they went to the Department of Justice, a violation of the labor law, which used to get you a slap on the wrist, now gets you jail time. Americans pride ourselves, as being law-abiding citizens. So when they hear that you are here illegally, they get incensed because they think you are a criminal because you broke our laws. Basically what they're saying is, you're against anybody coming in here illegal. So the proper step for our country to have done is develop a means in which we can supply the labor that is needed here, much like the Bracero program originally started, but we haven't done that, and there is that constant shift back and forth between, we support immigrants, say the general community, but we don't support our illegal immigrants. And the reason we're illegal is because we don't let them become legal.
So a couple more comments. California is 22 years ahead of this conversation. We had this conversation when we passed 187. And what we've seen since 187 passed is that we're voting at greater rates, and that the 70% of the state is in agreement that we need to resolve this situation. So we are not the anti-immigrant state that we were. And when Proposition 187 passed, we changed 100 years of California history. We passed 2 more laws that were anti-immigrant, but after that, we reversed the direction of anti-immigrant legislation that started in California, which included the Chinese Exclusion Act. So it is possible to make change. And so maybe this is our time as a nation to make the change, and California is in a position to lead, because we are 22 years ahead. The other thing that I would add is that we're talking about a community that is heroic. It is sustaining this economy, and it's sustaining the country of origin, and we need to change that dialogue to talk about contributions and not about crimes. Because when we talk about crimes, we are not addressing the issue that in Mexico, the railroad system is established from south to north, to bring resources and to bring people. We are one economy in the whole northern continent, and it's time that we address that and not be punishing Mexicanos for being Mexicanos when we take over all their production through NAFTA and force them to come here. And so there's a lot of contradictions that we have to face. As California, we're in a time to lead. As Santa Clara County, we have to push forward. And we are
What board is she on? She said the board.
San Jose Unified School Board and Metro Ed.